All right, let's talk about the syllabus. This is a dry document that goes over the basic rules of our class. This is things like grades and cheating and all the basic underlying things within what makes this class besides the actual content of the class. This is our constitution, the rules of the game, and reading it is important because if you don't, I've seen a lot of students fail this class because they didn't understand something about, say, deadlines or what counts towards their grade. Now, because this is a dry document and it's hard to make a video of, I'm going to do it in one take. And I say that even though this is my second take because I just noticed that I didn't have my microphone on. The other thing I'm doing besides doing this in one take is I am doing it dry. I am incredibly thirsty. I was very thirsty 20 minutes ago when I started going through this, and I'm hoping that by not having a drink, I'm going to force myself to go through it even faster. I am certainly not going to talk for 20 more minutes. So, at any point, pause, read the document itself. You can find this on Brightspace. Look through that. If you have any questions, email me at weberr@farmingdale.edu. That's 1B, 2 R's. So, I'm going to go through this as fast as I can, and I am always tempted to slow down and go into detail, but I am so thirsty at this point that there's no way I can do this having just done 20 minutes and having gone halfway through at that point. I'm going to go a lot faster. So, I'm going to skip some things, but I'm going to give you the highlights, and hopefully that will help you to find the important stuff in this as your questions come up. If you're more interested in grading, for example, that's going to be lower down in the document. If you're concerned about how is the course going to operate, that's going to be a little further up. If you're concerned about what is in the class, that's going to be right near the top. So this is a class on principles of microeconomics. If you're looking for macro, you're in the wrong place. If you're looking for personal finance, you're in the wrong place. We are talking about decision making in the face of uncertainty by relatively small players. Businesses and individuals. We're not dealing with countries and economies as a whole. We got a bunch of learning outcomes, and I love this list because I always go off on tangents about really interesting things like gains from trade and how comparative advantage means as a logical inevitability we're better off when we trade with people from far away. But my throat is so dry I can't do it. I'm going to skip that and let you read that on your own. Our course requirements, we're going to use two basic things. Our main textbook platform, which is MindTap, and The Undercover Economist by Tim Harford. This is a nice, friendly pop econ book that you should be able to borrow from the local public library for $0, or you can buy online from your favorite bookseller for less than $10. We're going to have reading assignments out of Harford, but our main textbook, which is going to be dry and technical and thorough, is Greg Mankiw's Principles of Microeconomics. And the easiest way to access that textbook, including our homework platform, is by getting access to Cengage Unlimited. That gives you access to all of Cengage's textbooks and our homework platform. The way you're going to access our class is to go into Brightspace. There will be a link you click there, which will take you to our class on Cengage. So you have to set up an account on Cengage first, come back to Brightspace, click the link, and it'll take you in, and it will tell you about whatever the free trial period is. I think it's going to be something like a week, maybe 2. That's going to have a bunch of our homework, so you need to get that. You want to get that relatively early. Undercover Economist, the less you pay, the slower shipping's going to be. So again, order that early or borrow it from the library. You can get a Kindle version, you can get an audiobook version. Should be relatively accessible, and it's going to be less dry and technical. So hopefully it'll make more sense of the stuff we see on MindTap, which is Cengage's platform, in which we will see principles of microeconomics. All right. Office hours contacting me. It's summer session, so we don't have regular office hours. We're going to do everything. Any issues you have, email me. I check my email usually weekday mornings. So if you send me an email Tuesday night, I'm probably going to see it Wednesday morning. If I don't respond within a couple of business days, you can follow up if it's still important. Sometimes stuff slips through the crack. I get a lot of weird junk mail and then stuff just gets lost. 2025 is a weird time. If you need to, we can set up a video meeting, but usually the summer session goes pretty smoothly. But if something comes up, that's fine. That's a possibility here. A lot of the stuff we're going to see in the syllabus doesn't matter for most students most of the time, but the point is to have this information there for when you do need it. Course policies, a lot of this boils down to you are an adult responsible for your own learning, and if you're having issues, I want you to reach out to me. The other basic way of saying all of this stuff is we're going to have a uniform set of policies I want to apply fairly and evenly to everyone, and that includes things like if one person misses a deadline and they miss that deadline, the same applies to someone else. So once you pass a deadline, it's just missed. With MindTap, it's a little bit different because it's a robot doing the grading. So there, as long as it's done by the end of the semester, I don't really care about if you miss it. But for things like quizzes, where I'm going to be grading those Monday mornings, once I've graded everyone's quizzes, if you're turning stuff in later that week, it's not fair to everyone else who got it at that deadline. The deadlines are going to be uniform, policies are going to be uniform. Our deadlines by default are going to be Sundays at midnight, but if I am late on grading, you are not late on doing your homework. So the way this is usually going to work is I will wake up Monday, have my coffee, and then maybe 9, 10 o'clock I decide to start grading. Maybe 7 o'clock, maybe early, not 4 o'clock. So Monday morning, I'm going to do the grading, and as long as you get the stuff in before then, you have met the deadline. Now, that said, sometimes things come up. You're in the hospital, you got a doctor's note. Send me the doctor's note, do the homework, say, I did the quiz, I turned it in on Wednesday. I'm sorry I missed the deadline, but here's my doctor note explaining that I was in the hospital Sunday night and through till Monday, and that's why I missed the deadline. If you ask forgiveness and not permission, I am very likely to go back and grade your old stuff. But if you just send me an email and say, hey, Professor, I missed the deadline, could I turn it in late? The answer is going to be no, because the policy is uniform for everyone. With that caveat of everyone, circumstances happen. All right. And this syllabus is in the context of I am the benign dictator of this class. If I have to change something in the syllabus, I reserve that right. I will do my best to make that non-disruptive, but this is a pretty rare occurrence. This happened like during COVID. So if something really needs to happen, it can, but probably will be fine. Farmingdale policies, I'm going to skip through all this, except to say you have paid for campus mental health services. You might as well take advantage. And if you need accommodations through the Disability Services Center, reach out to them as soon as possible. They'll send me paperwork so that I can sort things out for you. Yada, 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 stuff about what is a college class, don't cheat. In our class, basically what it means is you do your own work, and that means you don't have someone else do the work for you. It means you don't have AI do the work for you. Other than that, it's open book. That's fine. Copyright statement, that's just boilerplate stuff. Email is going to be our default. All right, into the real meat, grading. So we're using the normal grading system. Farmingdale doesn't have an A+, but it's 90 and up is in the A range, 80 range is the Bs, so on and so forth. Your grade is split in 3 components. MindTap is 40%. I've seen students who say, I'm going to try and save a little bit of money by not doing the MindTap, and then they fail the class, and that costs them a few $1,000s of tuition. Don't waste $2,000 by trying to save $200. Like I said, that is going to be very useful for our online asynchronous format. It's going to give you fast feedback. It's going to give you explanations if you put in a wrong answer. It's got a lot of tools that are very useful, so definitely take advantage of the adaptive test prep. It's got a whole note-taking system. There's a lot of stuff in there, so get your money's worth. That is 40%, and that's basically going to be routine, normal sort of homework along with the reading. We're going to have reading assignments, most of which will be out of The Undercover Economist by Tim Harford. quick note, it's The Undercover Economist, not The Undercover Economist Strikes Back, which is his macroeconomics book. So these will be completion basis, nice and straightforward. There are more details down here, but the gist is you'll read a chapter, you'll give me a brief summary, like a paragraph, and you'll give me some thoughtful response. Was it interesting? Did you disagree with something? Did you see some real-world application that connects to your own life? Very open-ended, and so subjective, and it's just completion, right? So these are relatively easy points, and they will get you reading this book, which I promise is a fun read. Tim Harford is a good author, and he's going to make these ideas that are so dry and precise in Man-Q a lot more digestible intuitively. And then instead of a traditional set of exams, a midterm and a final, I've split those into 6 smaller quizzes, which we're calling exams. I'll call them quizzes or exams, same difference. They're going to be treated like exams. They're cumulatively the same as having a midterm and a final, but because they're smaller, each one of them is relatively lower stakes, a little bit less stressful, and it's small enough that it's just not really worth cheating on. So 6 quizzes we'll have across the semester. The first 5 will be covering the stuff from right before that quiz, right? So our first couple of units, our first couple modules will be covered on quiz 1. Quiz 2 is going to cover new stuff. It's not going to go back to that old stuff. Quiz 6 is going to be cumulative. Anything from the semester is going to be open game on quiz 6. But each of these quizzes is basically going to be a 30-minute timed quiz, open book, open notes, but it's going to be a little bit intense. They're meant to be kind of that trial under fire experience of a normal exam, but again, smaller stakes spread across 6 quizzes rather than high stakes across 2 quizzes where it really matters if you get sick or whatever. So if you have a bad quiz, it's not going to be the end of the world the same way it would be if you had it. Well, a bad midterm is not the end of the world either, but let me move on. Late stuff, like I said, if it's late, it's late. An unspoken policy is it's better to ask forgiveness than permission. So if you miss a deadline, but you do the work and you ask, you say, here's my doctor's note, here's why I missed that, I'm going to grade that. If you ask, can you grade stuff, I'm not going to do it until you say yes, I'm going to say no. Deadlines are sometimes harder, sometimes softer. I'll let you read this, but everything has to be done by the last day of the class. That's a very hard deadline. Mind tap work is a soft deadline because it's a robot doing the work. Quizzes and reading assignments are going to be harder deadlines. Life is easier if you do your work early. With Mind Tap, you want to be strategic about the assigned work. So there'll be a little orange dot that says counts towards grade. If you don't see that orange dot, you are free to mess up on that, consequence free. The adaptive test prep is a really good way to practice for the assigned homework, but also for the quizzes. That said, the assigned homework, it gives you 3 attempts, but it's weird. There are blocks of questions. It's not that you get 3 attempts at homework 1, it's that you get 3 attempts at homework 1, part 1, which might have 3 or 4 or 5 questions. So you do that block, you grade it, you don't like your grade, you can do it again up to 2 more times. But once you hit I'm done my homework, submit, then it's all locked and you can't get back in. It's kind of weird, but you'll figure it out. Reading assignments, like I said, subjective, completion basis, exams. We're doing 6 shorter quizzes rather than 2 big exams. The class is basically going to be 50% easy points, especially for the reading assignments, easy questions on the exams. Mind Tap is going to be relatively easy to get most of those points, but it's also going to be about 50% hard points. So my grade structure is set up so that if you turn up and go through the motions and try, you'll pass the class. Extra credit is extra. Don't count on extra credit making up the difference in your grade. It can make the difference between a B and a B+. It's not going to make the difference between a C and an A. The class is basically split into 2 parts, and I'm going to close on this and leave you to read through the specifics. But the very simple gist of it is we have the invisible hand story and we have the incentive failure story. So we're going to start by understanding how people doing what makes sense for them individually can lead to a collectively good outcome. And then we'll see when that situation is a little bit different, how I might pursue what's valuable for me in a way that harms you, and that can break apart. 9 times out of 10, economists see a lot of opportunity for this invisible hand cooperation where, for example, I get rich by thinking about my customers and giving them what they want at a lower price than the competition. It's good for me, it's good for them. An incentive failure case would be something like pollution. I create more pollution and then I create more goods that I can sell to my customers. Me and the customers are happy, but the neighbors are unhappy. And we're going to look at ways that we can deal with that problem basically in the second half of this class. All right, so like I said, if you have any issues, email me and I will get back to you within 1 business day. If I don't, it might have fallen through the cracks, send me a follow-up email and I'll get right back to you. Forgot to mention also this link to the academic calendar for Farmingdale for things like what's the last date to drop or to add or to whatever. So again, weberr@farmingdale.edu. Good luck. I am going to go get something to drink.